so good to be with you. And today is kind of an exciting day for me because I get to share with you. I am a published author, and the next copy should say best selling author. Can you believe it? I almost count myself. On launch day, and many of you have already heard this if you're already part of my regular community, but I'm going to have other details about publishing this book as examples of all I've been talking about regarding the oneness, regarding letting go, and really share more of the details. Some of you have heard a lot of this, and others of you don't know anything about it. So where to start? Let me just start with what was at the end of the last video, had this caption underneath that I wrote. When we take ourselves as the personal, we arrive in life with armor. As the oneness, we can see things more as they are without defending our personal image. What does that mean? I know oneness means nothing to some people. It wouldn't have meant anything to me. I mean, it would have meant I knew what the word was. It would have meant like a kumbaya experience. I'm one with you, blah, blah, blah. But it's actually much more concrete and specific than that. And once again, I have to say, I didn't know it until that moment when I had an awakening experience, if you will. It kind of makes it more lofty, but it's that time when I had been suffering greatly over my daughter Melissa's untimely death at 39. Unexpected. And I don't even know if it was months or weeks. I know it wasn't years, but there was a long time, felt like a long time, that I was experiencing excrucial pain about it. Just shock, and more like someone punched me and forgot to take the fist out, like it was still there all the time. I just couldn't believe it happened. And then when I believed it, it hurt so badly. It was like a nightmare that just kept on going. Most nightmares you wake up from and then you shiver and shake or whatever you do, and then you realize it was a nightmare and it's over. But that wasn't over. Anyway, I'll repeat this because I have to keep repeating it because it's the only way I knew. But we're going to go into more. What did I know? It was the oneness. But it was only after I realized, and I was shaken, I believe from the outside, it's not important. I could have imagined it. That is not important. Whether it was angels, whether it was God, whether it was an energy force, or whether I imagined it, doesn't matter. Some people say it was Melissa, but I don't personify her that way anymore. So that was sweet to hear. It was sweet, but I don't need to think of it as Melissa, a person doing this for me. But what's important is not that event, but the suffering was gone in an instant. So in this Thursday musing, I want to talk a little more about what it is that I understood. I may not be able to do a good job because there really aren't words. There was a movement, there was pain, and then the pain was gone. I would say that was a movement. There was a letting go. And then there was that important moment, which I think I'll talk about in the next video. Let me write that down so I remember. And that was that decision I made without thoughts, but it was a definite feeling of I'm choosing this path. And what this path was came after the question. I noticed the suffering was gone. I said, where did it go? I didn't have an answer, but it was gone. I went over my circumstance. Melissa's still dead. I still remember that. It's not gone, the memory. I could go back to suffering. It wouldn't be hard. Just go into a few details. How could this happen? That would bring me straight back to the suffering. She was only 39. That would bring me back. If she'd only ... And I could fill that in for paragraphs. That's what, when I say feeding the looping thoughts and feelings, that's what that is. You go from one subject to the same next subject, but it's all about psychological suffering, fighting with the tug of war. The tug of war in my case there would have been Melissa died. But when the suffering was gone, I let go the rope. No, I never decided to let go of the rope. What was it that let go of the rope? I really want you to stay with that if you can and if you would. Letting go happened. It wasn't a personal I. I didn't even understand I was in a tug of war. I didn't understand that the small mind, the mind meaning feelings, thoughts, perceptions, sensations, memory, and that's what I'm calling mind, all those things were creating my suffering. It wasn't that Melissa died that I was suffering. It was now what I was doing. This is like so important. If you get this, you don't ever have to listen to me or anyone else again. You don't need to listen to me. I'm so happy you're here. I'm so glad we can journey together. But this is the important part. Not that my suffering was gone or my journey. That's not important. It's if we can get that things happen. Now, usually in spiritual programs, it's pointed out, and this is a progressive path. This is important. We're taught to take responsibility, and I've talked about in the last couple of videos how I see responsibility. I'm more calling it the noticing. Don't just let your thoughts and your feelings go rampant without noticing. But responsibility implies a separate person. And on a progressive path, we're taught to understand the nature of a separate person and also to notice the lack and limitation of a separate person. So we're taught to take responsibility, and we're taught don't be a victim and feel like things happen to you. So here, take a second, my friend. I hope you're following me. I've been told I can move rather quickly. This is so important. If you didn't kind of follow me, maybe listen again, because I just kind of have to stay on the track that I'm on. I'll try it slow down. So I'm using things happen not as a personal self that's a victim. I'm moving into a larger context, like weather, like the field that Rumi says he'll meet us. I'll meet you there. I might quote that later. But the quantum field is what Rumi referred to. If we're not a personal self and we're alive and we're vibrant and we know that, our only choice in life has been a personal self, because we're aware that we're alive, we're aware of feelings, thoughts, sensations, opinions, preferences. We're aware of seeing this person with this hairstyle, that painting, you look like you, I look like me. And so, of course, we've been taught, and it seems natural, or it seems like truth, that we are separate. But we're only as separate as the trees whose roots are like this and are subject to the weather and the oxygen exchange and carbon dioxide and their relationship to the soil and the fires so they're part of everything. The trees and the flowers are not separate, and neither are we. So things happen to the flowers and the trees, but they're not victims. So let's move with a different, if you can, understanding. But let's just go back. You can see that it wasn't a personal I, Rosalind, that was wise enough to say, let the rope go, let the tug of war go with Melissa. Even though I was a therapist for a million years and a spiritual student of the non-duality, A Course in Miracles, and I was born a Jew and raised a Jew, I thought when I was doing my personal suffering, I wasn't even into the stages of grief in the sense of deciding which stage am I in. I just was into feeling my suffering. So you can see there, maybe not in your life, you will still feel and experience life as the doer, but that doesn't mean it's true. Quantum physics keeps telling us we're just energy, but we don't know what that is, so we forget it. Remember, we teach things that we even know are true. The sun rises, the sun sets. It's not true. The earth is what's moving, it's not the sun. We don't mind repeating something that's not true. So even though we've learned quantum physics, we still teach the same stuff to our children because it's what we believe. And what we believe comes from what we've been taught, as well as our experience, that it appears. Yes, we appear differently. That's fine. But what's not correct is that we're in charge of the world, that we're in charge of our destinies. We get to play in this outer world. We get to choose chocolate over strawberry ice cream. I don't think those things matter in the totality or to the divine, whether you have that car that you think you manifested. Let's just stay with manifestation another time, because that seems to prove to people that they are separate and that they are in control of their destiny. If we didn't believe in that, we would hear how egoic that is. It's an idea of a separate person. It is our experience. But wait a minute. We thought, I want that Mercedes or whatever it is you want, that big house or the job or the whatever. Are you the originator of that thought? Sometimes I think thoughts I don't even believe. Thoughts are contagious. We know that if someone is in a bad mood, they can poison the whole room. all of a sudden everybody's going to feel, or I don't even know why I'm feeling so badly. So thoughts aren't necessary. We're not the originator necessarily, or perhaps everything is the divine. Everything is beshared. That's a Yiddish word thought to come from German. Beshared means destined, but we hate destined because we want to believe that we control our reality. We control what happens next. And yeah, it feels great when we are manifestors and we're abundant, and a zillion books on that. And I have dear friends who have written books like that. So I hope I'm not in trouble. But I believe that I am a bit of an iconoclast. I seem to be given an awareness of truths that are not necessarily popular. And since Melissa's death, I've been pushed to speak them. I did that thing called human design just for fun. It's a system that talks about how you came into the world. So I don't really know much about what's the word for that? Astrology. But I think it's your earth sign and your sun sign, and I don't even know anything about that. But that talks about what you came into the earth as. And then it talks about your conditioning in the sense of how and what form you're to deliver in this world, your way of expression. And it's another system that's very, very deep, like the Enneagram. So I haven't really studied it. But why I'm bringing it up is that I'm a manifestor generator, and the manifestor is in the throat, and I need to speak things in a direct way that maybe are unpopular. And so let's get down to the book again. So I've been talking about there is something bigger than us, and yet I wrote a book. Did I write the book? Yes and no. So first of all, I didn't really want to write a book. I was in a meeting of TEDx wannabes, if you will, a coaching group of people, many of whom have already done their TEDx talks. It's like the most high-powered, whatever status group of TEDx people, wannabes, with a person who gets more people on stage than anybody else. He's like out there in the stratosphere. And a speaker came in, that was Sarah Cannell, and she's a great speaker, and I enjoyed her. And then at the end, she said, how many of you have either written a book or want to write a book? And every hand went up, but mine. And then she gave us a gift, as people, I've learned, there's a whole protocol. You give a talk and then you give a gift. But her gift was super generous. It was a whole week of writing, teaching writing. It was video. You could do it from home, but it was a retreat of people who were writing their books. And it was I don't know why, but I don't know why, it wasn't my desire. Sometimes what we're to do comes through our desire. But I'm a good example of how it came through anyway. So I said, I don't know why I'm doing this, but I cleared my calendar to go to this week-long event. I mean, this is like 8:30 in the morning till 5 o'clock and very short breaks, a lot of material. And I kind of had a bad attitude. I don't know why I'm going to this. I don't know why. cleared my calendar. I'm not going to write a book. I don't want to write a book. But I went. So is it I that was in charge, or was this embodiment being moved, pushed, even through the personality says, no, 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 no. But so often I know the difference between the personality and a movement that says, do it. And it's not exactly that I hear a voice, but the words get translated, the movement, like if you're driving and the directions your buddy gave you were to turn left, but you have an instinct and turn right, and you just have to turn right if it's like what I'm talking about. So there aren't words that necessarily say turn right, but it feels that way. So anyway, make a long story short, she was terrific. I loved the week, and I was the first one to sign up for a very expensive program to write a book. Go figure. I was scared to death. Afterwards, the person, the believed perceptive, the not perceptive, the person who perceives themselves as a separate person was scared to death that what did I just do? What? All this money? I didn't even want to write a book. I don't know if I will write a book. It was just being carried. Now, sometimes it is in the form of, I really want this. And so you think you're manifesting it because you really wanted it, but maybe this push was underneath and you were the second to say, I want this. Maybe the idea came from the universe, came from the divine, came from what is. We could call it the matrix. We could call it the field. We could call it energy. It doesn't matter what we call it, except if you get hung up on your interpretation of words like God. They are very loaded. Even the universe is getting loaded. The divine is getting loaded. And the reason they're loaded personally is because we believe in our unworthiness. And so how could we be an embodiment of the divine when we're not good enough? So that's underneath everything. And I am concerned that I'm going rather long here. My clock isn't on. So I think we'll do a part 2 on the book, because I think it's really important to see, how did I keep writing? What was my experience if I didn't want to write a book? And I wrote a book. And then who is it? I just said I wrote a book. But what wrote the book? What is the I that wrote the book? Is it the personal separate self? It's my story. It's a fable. It's a companion memoir. It's actually a teaching memoir because it has questions and answers at the end. So I hope that you will buy the book and write a review. Yes, I would love to market it, but I would also love for you to write back to me with questions on these Thursday musings about how all of this applies to your life. I'd love to keep on exchanging about that. Secondarily, I would love for this book that is the legacy of my daughter and my story. I would love for this to get into the hands of people who might be suffering. I've already heard from just a few people who've had grief experiences that they're just using the story to help them. I want to say, pull themselves out of that suffering and apply the messages. I've also heard from people who resonate with the mother-daughter story and the weight story. So To be continued next time. Thank you for being with me. You have no idea how much love goes into my experience of being with you in this way. Bye for now.